So I see God equally in everything eternally. It's quite a practice to even attempt, let alone live up to. But he's saying that's the work. Now, that's the work of compassion. Compassion, again, isn't an intellectually generated sympathy. It's even more than empathy. It's a real level of identification with, coming from deep within oneself to reaching that place deep within another. I mean, our word compassion in Hebrew, and I have to say one of the reasons why I've started giving workshops talking about compassion, and I know I haven't talked about it that much, but it's there in what we've been doing. When the Dalai Lama came to Israel, when was that now, 3-4 months ago, and an Israeli newspaper person was interviewing him and asking him what are the practices of Tibetan Buddhism and what does he believe and what's his work in the world, and he just kept talking about compassion this and compassion that, and this Israeli newspaper person said, "Gee, I don't think we have a word for that in Hebrew." You know? Now, he's right, we don't have a word for it. We have about 3 or 4 words for it. But this person didn't seem to know one of them. One of the primary words that we have for compassion. I mean, we have chesed, which means loving kindness, and contains most of the aspects and issues of compassion. But we have a word, rahmanut. And we refer to God constantly, Hamerachem, Rachem Aleinu, compassionate one, have compassion upon us. And over again, we use this term. The root of the word compassion is rechem, which means a womb. A womb. The ability to completely carry somebody within you, to surround, to engulf, to protect, to sustain, to nourish. It's not just tossing I don't know what, in somebody's direction as an act of whatever, help, kindness. It's, there's a lot more contained and implied in what it means to act in a compassionate way and to be able to develop that source of compassion. Well, I was just talking to God the other day about this, and on the one hand, I find also I look at the role of parent and use that as a metaphor for God, both to sometimes try and be sympathetic when he loses his temper with us, and I know when I've lost my temper with my kids, and maybe can begin to understand when my parents lost their temper with me. And on the other hand, I do have to remind myself that as good as it is as a comparison metaphor to some degree or other, I still have to, on some level, say, I cannot understand. And I don't have to apply that thing of saying I can't understand to the behavior of a parent. And a parent who is violent or abusive or whatever needs to be dealt with. Again, I can say I don't understand. I can say this doesn't seem right or it doesn't make sense to me. But I can't just go to the same place that I can do with another parent or myself as parent, but have to, in some way, say, I don't know what's going on here. Again, that can sound like a religious or an orthodox or an I don't know what cop-out, that I'm just trying to protect God from a lot of things. But on some other level, we just have to say, I don't know. And I've learned in working with people with a whole range of illness, because there are very good books out, New Age books, religious books, and they either communicate the message that says, you caused this, but in a very saying, well, since you caused it, you can fix it. So, I mean, they want you to feel good about the fact that obviously you can cure yourself because you made yourself sick. But it's a very sick message. And it's a very dangerous one. It places a burden on the individual. It's when they say, look, it's happening to you. Maybe it's happening to you because you can fix it. Maybe it's happening to you because you have to learn to live with it. Maybe it's happening because you have to learn to die with it. I don't know. But I have to be careful if I just limit it to one and say, therefore, if you aren't getting better, you're bad, it's your fault, you didn't try hard enough, you didn't follow my prescriptions, or et cetera, instead of saying, I don't know. I just don't know. And if I live in the world and say, well, people are born and they die, and they're guaranteed this many years because that's all we have and there's nothing else, so therefore we got to get the most out of it. So anybody who's cut short of 1 year or 20 years or 50 years, and it's all put in that context, which is how we, for the most part, experience it, because I'm living my life and I'm aware that, yeah, the time's running out and so on and so forth. But that's a very arbitrary measure. I have to say, I honestly don't know. That's the best I can do in God's defense or whatever thing. And again, I come back to this initial thing that I was talking about that says that a person, just as a house begins with a vision and goes into blueprint and goes into construction and goes into reality, we learn that a person long before they're born, their soul, existing in a dimension, again, that we can talk about, but I don't know how much I can understand it or anybody can, that there's a dimension beyond our limitations of time and space and being. And the soul up there can look down and recognize not only does every individual have a vision and a blueprint and a construction reality, the whole world has a vision, and was then a blueprint was put together for that world, and then it was constructed, and whether we do it through evolution or God created in 6 days. And in that place beyond time and space, the vision that God had of the world that was desired, longed for, and meant to be is fully visible. Just as, in a sense, you can have a dream of an ideal house, and even after the blueprint is made, you still have your ideal in your head. Nobody gave you electric shock to wipe the vision out. It stays. It's beyond time and space. And it goes into construction, the vision is still in your head, and so on. So the vision of the world remains a world of harmony, of love, of compassion, of care, of cooperation, of all the things that we still like to think that the world may be able to come to. And the soul sees this is what was meant to be. I can't go into the discussion of why it was that God introduced free will, which is why the world isn't the way God intended it to be. That's another workshop, okay? But free will in Judaism is essential so that what comes out of our choice to make it so, and not because we're wind-up robots and pre-programmed, automatons and so on. So God sees so here's the vision of what was meant to be, and here's the reality of what it's turned into. And the soul sees both and says, well, if this is what it was meant to be, and it got this far off track, I'm going to go down and I'm going to try and bring the world closer to its true purpose. And every single soul goes through this process in one form or another, sees what could be, sees what is, and picks a particular thing that soul wants to do. The one might see there's so much illness, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a healer. I'm going to be a holistic health practitioner. I'm going to be a, whatever. The other one says there's so much injustice. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a social worker. I'm going to be a, one says it's so dirty. I'm going to sweep the streets. Whatever it is, and whatever form that it comes out in our modern Western world or in other forms, that every single individual perceives something special that they can do. That's their particular free choice that soul pledges to do. Okay. The story is told of one soul that looks down and sees the shape of everything, and that soul says, boy, I really want to bring the world closer to its real vision. And if I could come down and be in a position, I see that the part of the problem is people are so possessive and so clinging to everything, and they'll kill over their possessions and what's important to them, what's theirs and mine, and so on. He says, I want to come down there and remind people there's one God and nothing else that we possess. Is so important to hang on to it, to cling to it. If I could be in a position to show the world, I would gladly sacrifice anything. That would be my vow. And if that would bring the world closer to God's true purpose, then my life will be complete. And no sooner does that soul make its vow than up shows a little angel council advisor in the University of Life, and says, that's your major? Well, fine, just sign right here, and here's your prerequisites, and here's what you have to do. And it sits down and runs through the whole thing of what you're going to need to know, and all the courses you're going to have, what kind of parents, economic status, geographical location, historical time, et cetera, a whole range of things within which you will still have your way to, your free choice to react to it. But you've chosen this major, and now this is what you have to go through to come out. And the fine soul signs up and goes down, enters the womb, and in the womb, the angel comes down and reads over everything that's going to be. And just before that soul is born, the angel reaches over and goes whack and slaps the baby here on the upper lip, leaving this funny indentation, which medically is still quite a mystery. Somebody named it at some point, I don't remember what it's called, the philtrum. See? But what it is, it doesn't even channel a runny nose well, as you all know. So, we know in acupuncture it seems to be a significant point. Hurts, though it's not supposed to. And they all say it won't hurt, It hurt when they did it to me, I don't know. Anyway. And with that whack, all memory of the vision you had, of the vow you made, of all the instructions you were given are erased from your conscious mind, and that child is born basically with total free will. Example is given, another soul sees God's vision. Wow, what a beautiful world it could be. Oy vey, what a mess it's turned into. I want to go down there. I see, and the problem is people, they think their lives are finite. They think they're limited. They think this is what it's really all about. They're so hung up in a complete misconception of life. I'm going to go down there, and if I could be in a situation, I'd even sacrifice my own life, because, I mean, what is this ultimately compared to the infinite nature of life and continuous ongoing consciousness and whatever and so on, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to try and bring the world closer to God's purpose with this vow. And up shows an angel, sign right here. Baby goes down to the womb, the angel comes down, gives over all the instructions of everything that's going to happen and so on and so forth. Just before he's born, whack, on the lip, all memory blanked out. In Rosh HaShana, we read about them in the Torah portion. Second day, Abraham and Isaac are walking up Mount Moriah, deep in thought. Abraham is in there. How is it possible? I waited 100 years to have a child. I finally have a child. And now, 37 years into his pure and beautiful life, God's telling me to sacrifice him. I just can't believe it. But I've dedicated my whole life to following God and to doing whatever he asks of me. But this is too much. I mean, I just can't believe it. Oh my God. It's taken me this long. I'm 137 years old. It's taken me this long to realize that was my vow. That was my vow. I remember now, I said people are so possessive of everything, and that I'd come down and I'd sacrifice the most precious thing I had if it would help the world see that there's nothing to hold back because of the reality of God. But I should have read the small type in the contract. You know, I didn't know I'd have to sacrifice my own son. It's too much. And even if I'm willing to do it, why should he have to suffer? Because of my vow. What am I going to do? And he's going up the mountain. And Yitzchak, he's going up the mountain. He's got the wood on his back, saying, this is heavy. I don't mean the wood. You know, I mean, you know. So, I mean, here's the knife, here's the fire, here's the wood. Everything's here, but where's the sacrifice? Doesn't make sense. I mean, it can't. I think it's me. You know, how can? Oh no. I don't believe it. I just realized that was my vow. Here I am. I'm only 37 years old, and I just remembered my vow. I said people were so attached to this limited sense of life in this physical body that if I could come down and give my own life to say to them, what are you holding on to? There's a reality so much beyond it. I would do it, but I can't believe it's happening. And okay, so I'm ready for it, but why should my father have to suffer and have to kill me? Because of my vow, I can't believe I should have read the small print in the contract. And at that moment, Yitzchak turns to Avram and he says, Avi, my father. And Avram answers back to son, says, Ken bani, yes, my son. You know, and it's interesting, for all of the, however many chapters have already passed in the Torah and all the history and all the so-and-so begat, so-and-so begat, so-and-so begat, so-and-so. And so-and-so was the father of so-and-so, so-and-so the son of so-and-so. This is the first time that a son has called his father, my father, and that a father has answered back and said, my son. So a lot of interpretation zeroes in because it's the first time this appears. It's like the headquarters. I learned this originally from Shlomo Carlebach, as I learned a lot from him. So Avram calls to his son. He says, Yitzhak, my son, I'm so sorry. You don't understand. You see, I made this vow, but I didn't know that it would be you. And Yitzhak is saying, Father, you don't understand. You see, I made this vow that I would be willing to, but I didn't know you. You what? You what? And the two continued on together as one, returning back to the primary text again. They go up, and in the end we see that it didn't happen. In the middle of the thing, God says, cut, right? Not the boy, the scene, you know. And yet we all carry it as though they did it. And in how many synagogues all over the world, the debate every Rosh HaShana, how could he have even said to God that he would do it? What kind of father? How could he submit himself to his father? What kind of son? And we have all the debates as if they did it. Because, I mean, they managed to transcend their vows. Okay. This is a teaching that comes for a lot of reasons. And it comes at Rosh HaShana, because at Rosh HaShana we're declaring God king, meaning that we recognize there is a vision, and an envisioner, someone with a plan and a purpose for creation. And in declaring God king, we are much deeper than that. It's not a question, is God king, is God queen, is God this, is God that? It is, yes, there is a purpose to creation. And I have a personal relationship to that creation, to that vision. Do I know what the world's vision is? Chances are I don't. Do I know what my vision and purpose is in relation to that? Chances are I don't. The work that we do within our whole life, the work that we try and do, in particular around Elul, the month coming up now after the new moon in another week and a half, and in particular at Rosh HaShana itself, is trying to get a little bit more clarity. What is the purpose of the world? And what is my purpose within it? Okay. Now, there is no question that we all have a purpose. Whether we know what that purpose is or not, I don't know whether I can guarantee it within a particular lifetime. I may spend my life searching for it. When that angel whacked us, you know, it's like, again, in Deuteronomy, the source that we have for Purim, when God says, and on the day I will surely hide my face. It's a double use of the expression of hiding that's interpreted as I will hide my hiddenness, meaning I will be so hidden you won't even know to look for me. That's where we're at in our day and age. It's not the same, I know God's here, I just can't find him. He's so hidden that we stop looking for him. Okay? I mean, the example I use on a personal level, I once knew someone as a child was playing hide and seek. She found the best hiding place, and she hid there so excited she found that they're never going to find her. And it got dark, and she discovered they weren't looking for her. I think that affected her whole life. They didn't even call it, okay, you're great, you found a good hiding, we can't find you, come out, we give up. They just stop looking, like you don't exist. You know? Now, in a sense, that happens to our vow. I make a vow, but not only has the vow been erased from my conscious memory, the knowledge that every soul makes a vow and that I made a vow is erased from my memory. And I think the most difficult thing that faces us in our generation, because in the good old days, when traditions held together a little bit more strongly, I believe that a mother could rock her child in her arms and say, I know you have a purpose. I don't know what it is, but I know you have a purpose. And today we aren't even given that information. Often. And we grow up saying, yeah, what does it matter? Whatever you do, you do. Whatever feels good, do it, kind of thing. Instead of saying, wait a minute. It's true, I don't know what my purpose is, but I know I have a purpose. So I can, on a certain level, say, I don't know what it is. I don't know. But I know I have one. And even if I can only come that far in my life to know beyond a doubt that I have a purpose, I'm living a very high and very holy life. If I spend my whole life just kind of looking at the clues and say, well, gee, I have this ability and this happened to me and this, maybe I'm meant to, maybe I'm actually doing it. I find often in my counseling, my first step is to convince somebody that they really do have a purpose. Next step is to see, maybe I can help them figure out what it is. My personal belief is that 90% of the people are living their purpose and are just unconscious of it, and therefore getting no credit for it. And to suddenly say, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why did I study what I studied? Why was I drawn to this particular field and whatever? And occasionally it really turns out to be wrong. You're really meant to be doing this. But so often it's just saying, you mean that's what this is about? Nobody told me. Okay, and again, I use this example a lot, and I don't mean to pick on lawyers. I once was working with a lawyer, and he was young and successful and in a big firm and working his way up, and he was married and had second kid on the way, and everything was just terrific, and he was miserable. And I began working with him, and at one point I said something about, tell me, in your work, I said, is there any justice? He says, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with anything? I said, well, I'm just curious. You're a lawyer. I said, do you deal with justice at all? What do you mean justice? What is, it was like holding up a cross to a vampire or a silver bullet to a, and I began to do some research. I talked to a lot of lawyers. I talked to judges. And at least back then in the 1970s, I think it's maybe improved a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. The word justice does not come up in law school. It has nothing whatsoever to do. We are learning a legal system with precedent and et cetera, and so on and so forth. But justice, thou shalt pursue. You don't find, for the most part, two lawyers or a judge saying, well, I don't care what evidence you got, what really happened, or, it's just, that question isn't normally asked. And I began to talk to him about the need, perhaps, to bring some justice into his practice, and it might change his life around, because I had a feeling that that was his vow. And he was in pain because he was so close and so far away, And then I began to see doctors. Do you think they mention healing in med school? In the old days, they didn't. Down the list of every profession and find how far away we are, not just professions, roles. I wanted so much to be a father. Now I'm a father. My kids, they drive me crazy, that kind of thing. Where, did I say that? How long I was waiting to have children. Now, whatever. In so many different things, we become what we wanted and do it in exactly the way that doesn't fulfill why we wanted to be that. I'm getting a little bit sidetracked, but the thing is, we have a vision. I was meant to be. I picked it myself from the wisest part of myself, my soul. And now, I don't know. But I can say, I don't know, and say, and I don't care, and I'll just do whatever I want. Or I say, I don't know. if this is really what I'm supposed to do, but I'm trying to do it in the best way I can. I'm in this situation. What's the highest way I can lift this up? I'm in this conflict. Do I just say, to heck with her, to heck with him, Or do I say, why is this bugging me this way? Is there something else I can do with this? Why did this situation come to me? I don't remember asking for it. I don't remember asking for a bigger picture for which this is a major piece of the training. But maybe it is. And that's that balance with saying, I know, and I don't know.